Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button if you guys are enjoying the content that we're throwing up. And make sure you guys hit the like button if you enjoy the video. And yeah, let's begin. What's going on, guys? This is Rob, and we are back again with another installment of our What If series, where we just make up stories. We make up the stories we always wanted to see, but Marvel and DC have never written. And in this video, we are looking at what would happen if Apocalypse expanded his search for Horsemen to the DC universe. So, just to lay some foundation on what the Horsemen of Apocalypse are, throughout the thousands of years that Apocalypse has been alive, he has repeatedly looked for minions to do his bidding, and then assigns them roles similar to the biblical Horsemen of Apocalypse: death, war, famine, and pestilence. Now, while there have been several iterations of Apocalypse's Horsemen, each time he either grants them powers or augments any existing powers they already have. So, I thought it would be interesting to discuss the possibility of Apocalypse looking into the DC universe for his next batch of Horsemen. And really, there isn't any criteria for someone to become a Horseman of Apocalypse. It's basically whoever he wants. He usually picks mutants, but not always. So really, the only criteria that I'm looking at here in choosing his Horseman is what will make for the most interesting story, which is basically what writers do. Now, it would be really easy for us to just pick some already powerful characters and make them even more powerful by having Apocalypse enhance their abilities, but there would always be equally or more powerful characters that would be able to take them down. So that got me thinking, what if instead of just having Apocalypse take on a powerful character like Superman or Darkseid, we have him serve as a villain for someone with no powers, like Batman? So the story would start with Apocalypse discovering the DC universe and figuring out a way to get there, which he has so much technology that it really wouldn't be that hard, but he could easily make some adjustments to the portals that he has on Krakoa to allow him to travel through dimensions. And since Apocalypse is not the kind of guy to rush into anything without a great deal of planning, it would make sense that he's been using his portals to observe the goings on in the DC universe. And I think that it also makes sense he would develop a particular disdain for Batman. If you know about Apocalypse at all, you know that he sees humans as genetically inferior to mutants. So to see a guy like Batman, who's just a normal guy, routinely defeating superpowered individuals would probably just piss him off, because he doesn't really understand that Batman comics sell better than any other character in DC. So he's given as much plot armor as he needs to win battles that he has no business winning. Matter of fact, I bet Apocalypse would come to that conclusion. That would make a great reason for Apocalypse to be pissed off at Batman, right? But at that point, you'd think he'd just attack the writers instead of going after Batman. But regardless, Apocalypse decides to be the one that will prove that Batman is not all he's cracked up to be. And so as part of his surveillance of Batman, Apocalypse has learned about his relationship with his current and former sidekicks. And so he sets a plan in motion that he believes will exploit the emotional connection Batman has to his proteges, emotion being one of the many elements of humanity that Apocalypse believes makes them less evolved than himself. So one by one, Apocalypse starts hunting down Batman's former Robin, starting with Jason Todd. Now he finds Jason operating as Red Hood, taking down some B or C list villain, and afterwards he's confronted by Apocalypse, who offers him a chance to take his evolution to the next step by agreeing to become one of his Horsemen. Now Red Hood predictably tells him to go to hell, and then he shoots Apocalypse. Which to his surprise has no effect on him. And so Apocalypse then proceeds to absolutely pummel Red Hood, beating him within an inch of his life. "I did you the courtesy of asking you to join my cause, Jason," Apocalypse would tell him, "but it was never really up to you." And with that, Apocalypse would bestow a new power upon Red Hood, which heals him and turns him into the Horseman of Pestilence. Next, Apocalypse sets his sights on Tim Drake, who's still going by Red Robin because this is our universe and we don't have to recognize the terrible name of Drake. Well, regardless, Tim immediately recognizes Jason and is shocked to see what this unknown blue guy has done to him. And things play out much the same way they did with Jason, as Tim Drake is able to put up no fight whatsoever against Apocalypse and is quickly defeated and transformed into the Horseman of Famine. Now, as you might expect, we see Apocalypse then move on to Nightwing, who he makes into the Horseman War, and finally he targets Damian Wayne to become his final Horseman. This occurs, however, as Damian is out fighting crime with his father. Now, because Batman has no time to prepare for this encounter, he gets obliterated by Apocalypse. But rather than killing Batman, Apocalypse turns Damian into the Horseman of Death in front of him, and then issues a warning. He tells Batman to take all the time he needs to gather whatever technology his money can buy, and that he'll be waiting whenever Batman feels up to the task of facing him. In the meantime, however, Apocalypse and his Horsemen will conquer Gotham City, and Batman will have to watch those he cares about the most terrorize the city he loves. And so after delivering this warning to Batman, Apocalypse and the Horsemen teleport away. And so Batman goes back to the Batcave Batcave to tend to his injuries and begin formulating a plan to take down Apocalypse and save his family. And he does all the standard Batman stuff, right? Like upping his armor and weaponry games so that he doesn't get every bone in his body broken immediately after engaging Apocalypse. He doesn't wait long before seeking him out, as Apocalypse is making good on his promise to terrorize Gotham City. But when Batman shows up to battle him, rather than battling Batman directly, Apocalypse sends his Horsemen to attack their former mentor. He then tries to reason with him, but Apocalypse's control over his Horsemen seems to be too strong for Batman to make any inroads in this way, and so he's forced to retreat. Now back in the Batcave, Bruce makes calls to all the allies he can think of that may be able to figure out a way to defeat Apocalypse. No one has any knowledge of Apocalypse, but Batman's allies rally to his side to help him defeat this new enemy. And so the next time Batman encounters Apocalypse, he's not alone, but is backed up by most of the Justice League, which makes the fight with Apocalypse far more even. Now at one point, the battle even turns in the favor of the Justice League, but Apocalypse senses that the tide is turning and teleports Batman, himself, and his Horsemen away from the conflict. And then he responds, "Surely you didn't think I would." No, we can't, we have to do the Apocalypse voice. Gordon or Jacob, whichever one of you is editing this, keep this in here. I want people to understand my thought process. They have to know. Okay, we have to do the Apocalypse voice, right? So like, surely you didn't think I wouldn't anticipate you bringing your friends in for help. I've been watching you for a long time, Batman, and I know all of your tricks. That's the lamest Apocalypse voice ever that we could possibly do. Okay, it has to be something deep, right? Something deep and like just menacing, right? Like menacing. Surely you didn't think I wouldn't anticipate you bringing your friends in for help. I don't know. I can't do a Batman voice. I can't do an Apocalypse voice. It doesn't work. Anyway, Apocalypse tells Batman, for too long, you've battled those who are your betters and thought you could use money to occupy a place on the evolutionary ladder where you don't belong. But all the money in the world couldn't buy a fraction of the scientific knowledge I possess. Know that after you die, your legacy will live on in my Horsemen that you trained admirably, but that will now reach greater potential than you could ever provide as they remain in my servitude. That's the most Apocalypse thing to say. I just want to say that. That's like the most Apocalypse statement ever. But Batman readies for perhaps his last battle, but Apocalypse is struck by a blast from an unseen assailant. As it turns out, Apocalypse has brought them all to the Marvel Universe and is now being attacked by the X-Men, who have found out that he's using the Krakoan portals for his own means without knowledge of the Mutant Council. And so Apocalypse turns his attention to the contingent of X-Men that have attacked him, and his Horsemen engage them in battle. Batman would then ask the question, where are we? And then in response, Apocalypse would say, we are on my world, on Krakoa, the nation for the genetically superior. You have no place here. I wanted to savor your death, but it appears I will have to dispatch you more quickly than I would have liked. And then Batman would respond, wait. Send my sons home, and I will serve you in your battle here. You said you've been watching me, and so you must know that as good as they are, I'm better. Now, Apocalypse responds, if I wanted you in my service, Batman, I would force you into it. And then Batman responds, maybe you could, but I saw the hesitation in their eyes when they attacked me. Your power over them is strong, but not absolute, and my resolve is stronger than theirs. The only way you can control me is if I come willingly, and you know how strong my detective skills are. I'll find you replacements, the best candidates you could possibly find. And so Apocalypse contemplates Batman's proposal for a moment and then says, very well, I find your terms agreeable, but ready yourself, for your first test is at hand. And with that, Apocalypse opens a portal, strips his power from the Robins, and then flings them through the portal back to the DC universe. He then imbues Batman with his power and names him his Horseman Death. And as we see the X-Men surround Apocalypse and his new minion, that's where the issue ends. Cliffhanger. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. We left a cliffhanger on our own story. I cliffhung you guys in a story that we made up. I'm a dick. With that being said, guys, we're gonna bring this video to an end. If you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like. I almost forgot what I was gonna say. And I will catch you all later. Peace.